The message arrived on every screen across Earth at exactly 12 hours GMT. Television broadcasts stopped. Computer monitors flickered. Even the smallest phone screens displayed the same cold blue text. People of Earth, you have expanded beyond your assigned boundaries. Your species shows dangerous unpredictability. You threaten the peace we have built over 10,000 years. President Martinez sat in the White House Situation Room, watching the alien words scroll across the main display. Around the table, military leaders and advisors whispered nervously. This was humanity's first contact with alien life, and it was not going well. "We are the Galactic Confederation," the message continued. 12 advanced species who maintain order among the stars. You will surrender control of your solar system. You will accept our guidance. You will become a protected species under our rule. General Hayes slammed his fist on the table. Protected species? They mean pets. Or you will face consequences, the message went on. We have sent the 1,000-fold blade to your world. 10,000 of our finest killers. They represent the best assassins from each of our member races, masters of death who have ended wars and toppled empires. Secretary of Defense Williams turned pale. 10,000 assassins! We need to evacuate all world leaders immediately. Get them to the bunkers. These warriors have studied your species for months, the alien message stated. They know your weaknesses, they know your fears, they know how you think. In 72 of your hours, they will begin their work. They will eliminate your leaders, your generals, your scientists, everyone who might organize resistance. President Martinez stood up slowly. The weight of humanity's future pressed down on his shoulders. Around him, his advisors argued about defense plans and evacuation procedures. But the president was thinking about something else entirely. Unless, the message concluded, you surrender now. Broadcast your acceptance on all channels. Lay down your weapons. Accept our protection. Choose life over pride. The screens went dark. The room fell silent except for the hum of air conditioning. Sir, General Hayes said urgently, we need to mobilize everything. Call up the reserves. Contact our allies. If 10,000 assassins are already here? Wait, President Martinez said quietly. He walked to a secure terminal and entered a series of codes. Before we panic, let's see what our friends in the Pentagon's Special Activities Division think about this. The secure line connected. A woman's voice answered immediately, as if she had been waiting for the call. Mr. President? I assume you saw the alien greeting card? Director Sarah Chen. Yes, we all saw it. What's the SAD's assessment? Fascinating, actually. Our sensors detected no alien ships entering our atmosphere. No energy signatures, no mass displacements. Either these 10,000 assassins are already here and have been hiding perfectly, or they're using technology we can't even detect. Martinez frowned. That doesn't sound good for us. On the contrary, Mr. President, it means they're playing by rules we don't understand. And when someone plays by rules you don't understand, you change the game, Martinez finished. He had worked with SAD before. They specialized in unconventional solutions. Exactly. Sir, I recommend we activate Protocol Midnight. The room full of advisors looked confused. They had never heard of Protocol Midnight. General Hayes stepped forward. Director Chen, with respect, this is not the time for experimental programs. We're facing 10,000 alien assassins. We need real military response. Director Chen's voice came through the speaker with calm confidence. General, with respect, conventional military response is exactly what they expect. They've studied us for months. They know how we organize, how we fight, how we think. They're prepared for armies and missiles and coordinated defense. Then what do you suggest? Secretary Williams asked. We give them something they haven't studied. Something they can't prepare for. Something that doesn't exist in their databases or their understanding of human behavior. President Martinez understood immediately. SAD had been developing assets for situations exactly like this. People who operated outside normal military structure. People who couldn't be predicted or categorized. "How many assets does Protocol Midnight involve?" Martinez asked. "2, sir." The room erupted in angry voices. Senators shouted about inadequate response. Generals demanded real military action. But President Martinez held up his hand for silence. 2 people against 10,000 aliens? 2 very special people, Mr. President. Reaper 7 and Shadow 9. General Hayes looked incredulous. "Code names? This is insane. We need divisions, not individuals with cool nicknames." Director Chen's voice remained calm. "General, conventional thinking got us into this situation. The aliens expect us to respond with conventional solutions, massive military mobilization, panic, predictable human behavior. But 2 people who represent something the aliens haven't encountered before, something they can't model or predict or prepare for." President Martinez made his decision. He had learned to trust SAD's unconventional methods during previous crises. They had solved problems that traditional military thinking couldn't touch. "Activate Protocol Midnight," he ordered. "Sir, this is madness," General Hayes protested. "Maybe," Martinez replied, "but we're dealing with aliens who think they understand us completely. The last thing they expect is for us to do something that seems completely crazy." Through the secure line, Director Chen spoke again. "Reaper 7 and Shadow 9 are being activated now. They'll receive their briefings within the hour." "What should we tell the public?" Secretary Williams asked. "Nothing yet," Martinez decided. "Let the aliens think we're panicking. Let them think we're mobilizing conventional forces. Let them prepare for the fight they expect." As the meeting broke up, President Martinez remained at the terminal. He opened a classified file labeled Protocol Midnight, Asset Profiles. 2 photographs appeared on screen. The first showed a middle-aged Asian man in a business suit, sitting in what looked like a coffee shop. The second showed a young Japanese woman working at a computer in what appeared to be an ordinary office. They looked completely normal, unremarkable, the kind of people you would pass on the street without a second glance, which was exactly the point. Across the galaxy, the Galactic Confederation monitored Earth's communications. Their analysis computers processed millions of intercepted messages, looking for signs of military mobilization, panic, or surrender. What they found confused them. Earth's leaders were indeed mobilizing military forces, but on a smaller scale than expected. There was no mass evacuation, no global panic, no immediate surrender. Most puzzling of all, their deep space sensors detected only 2 activation signals from something called Protocol Midnight. The alien analysts dismissed it as insignificant. 2 signals against 10,000 assassins meant nothing. Clearly, the humans were either in denial or planning some meaningless symbolic gesture. They had no idea what was coming. Marcus Chen was drinking his second cup of coffee when his phone buzzed. The message was simple. "Your grandmother's recipe is needed urgently. Please prepare the special ingredients." To anyone watching, it looked like a text from a worried family member. Marcus smiled slightly and finished his coffee. The woman at the next table glanced at him briefly, then returned to her tablet. She had no idea she was looking at Reaper 7. Marcus paid his bill and walked out of the small cafe in downtown Neo, Singapore. At 45 years old, he looked like any other business consultant. Gray hair at his temples, a slight belly from too many desk lunches, and tired eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. His biggest worry seemed to be whether his dry cleaning would be ready on time. 3 blocks away, hidden surveillance equipment tracked his movements. The alien assassins monitoring Earth's major cities had flagged thousands of potential targets: military leaders, government officials, scientists, corporate executives. Marcus Chen, security consultant for mid-level technology companies, rated barely a footnote in their databases. which was exactly what 20 years of careful preparation had achieved. Marcus walked into a grocery store and grabbed a shopping cart. He moved through the aisles slowly, like a man planning dinner for one. He picked up a bag of fertilizer from the garden section, some cleaning supplies from aisle 7, a few electronic components from the home repair section. Batteries, wire, a digital timer from the kitchen goods area. To any normal observer, he was shopping for household supplies and weekend projects. To Marcus, he was assembling enough materials to level a small building. The best weapons were always the ones hiding in plain sight. The alien surveillance team, watching through the store's security cameras, noted his purchases with mild interest. Fertilizer and cleaning supplies suggested a human engaged in domestic maintenance activities. Their behavioral analysis programs classified him as low-priority civilian and moved on to more interesting targets. Marcus paid cash and drove home to his small apartment. The building was 15 years old, unremarkable, and located in a middle-class neighborhood that rated 0 strategic importance. His unit was on the 3rd floor, overlooking a parking lot and a small park where children played after school. Inside, Marcus opened his laptop and began what looked like routine work. He reviewed security reports from his corporate clients, answered emails, and updated project schedules. Anyone monitoring his internet activity would see a boring consultant doing boring work. They would miss the hidden meanings in his communications. The email to his client about updating perimeter sensors was actually instructions to his network of contacts around the world. The message about scheduling maintenance rotations activated sleeper assets in 12 major cities. The routine report on intrusion detection improvements contained psychological profiles of alien behavior patterns that Marcus had been developing for years. Marcus Chen had not always been a security consultant. 20 years ago, he had been Major Marcus Chen, specialized in psychological operations for military intelligence. His job had been understanding how enemies thought, then using that understanding to make them defeat themselves. When the government created Protocol Midnight, they needed someone who could fight wars inside people's minds. Someone who could turn an enemy's strengths into weaknesses. Someone who could make 10,000 highly trained assassins become their own worst nightmare. They needed Marcus Chen, but they needed him invisible. So Marcus Chen officially died in a training accident. His family was relocated with new identities. The man who emerged from that process was exactly what he appeared to be, a quiet, unremarkable consultant who specialized in corporate security. For 20 years, he had maintained that cover while building something much more dangerous underneath, a network of assets, resources, and information that could wage psychological warfare on a scale never before attempted. His phone rang. The display showed his ex-wife's number. To anyone listening, it sounded like a typical divorced couple conversation. "Hello, Linda." "Marcus, I saw the news about the alien thing. Are you okay?" "I'm fine. Just staying home, keeping quiet. You know how I am with exciting events." "Good. Sarah asked about you. I told her you were probably hiding under your desk." Sarah was their daughter, now grown and living on the West Coast. The mention of her name reminded Marcus why this mission mattered. Not for governments or military objectives, but for the simple right of his daughter to grow up free. "Tell her I love her," Marcus said. "And Linda, take that vacation we talked about. Go somewhere quiet for a few days." Linda understood. 20 years of marriage to a military officer had taught her to recognize certain tones in his voice. "How quiet?" "Very quiet. Maybe that cabin in Montana. Remember the one with no cell phone service?" "I remember. I love you too, Marcus. Be careful." He ended the call and returned to his laptop. The aliens monitoring the conversation noted a predictable human response to stress: concern for family members, desire to maintain normal contact, tendency toward protective isolation. They completely missed the operational significance of a psychological warfare specialist establishing emotional stakes before beginning his mission. Marcus opened a new document and began typing what appeared to be a routine corporate security assessment. In reality, he was composing a psychological profile of alien military thinking based on their ultimatum and deployment patterns. Species that organized 10,000 assassins into a single unit called Thousandfold Blade were demonstrating several important characteristics. They valued symbolism over efficiency. They preferred overwhelming force to subtle approaches. They believed in psychological intimidation through displays of power. Most importantly, they expected their enemies to think like they did. This was their weakness. Marcus had spent his career turning enemy strengths into vulnerabilities. Disciplined soldiers could be made paranoid with the right disinformation. Loyal allies could be turned against each other with carefully planted suspicions. Superior technology became useless when the operators lost confidence in their equipment. 10,000 assassins was an impressive force, but it was also 10,000 individuals with 10,000 different psychological pressure points. 10,000 different ways to introduce doubt, fear, and confusion. As evening approached, Marcus made himself dinner and watched the news. Reports showed governments around the world mobilizing military forces. Analysts debated response strategies. World leaders gave speeches about unity and determination. The aliens would be watching all of this, confirming their understanding of human behavior. They would see exactly what they expected, a primitive species responding to superior force with predictable military posturing. They would not see Marcus Chen sitting in his unremarkable apartment planning the systematic psychological destruction of their most elite military unit. His laptop chimed with a new message. Recipe instructions attached. Grandmother sends her love. Marcus opened the encrypted file containing detailed intelligence on the Thousandfold Blade. Deployment patterns, species composition, command structure, behavioral analysis. Everything his government's intelligence services had managed to gather about humanity's new enemies. He leaned back in his chair and smiled for the first time in hours. The aliens had made a serious mistake. They had studied human military doctrine, human government structures, human technology, and tactics, but they had not studied human nature. They did not understand what happened when you threatened someone's family, someone's home, someone's right to exist freely. They were about to learn. Marcus Chen began to prepare for war. Keiko Tanaka noticed the code error at 2:47 a.m. Tokyo time. She had been debugging quantum processing algorithms for 6 straight hours, surviving on green tea and determination. Her small workspace in the corner of the all-night cybercafe was cluttered with empty cups and scattered notes. The error should not have existed. The code was clean, the logic perfect. But there it was, buried deep in the system architecture. A single line that made no computational sense, yet somehow made the entire program run better. She smiled and typed her response. Error acknowledged. Beginning optimization protocols. To anyone watching, Keiko appeared to be a dedicated but unremarkable software engineer, working late on yet another corporate project. At 28, she looked younger than her age, with long black hair often tied in a messy ponytail and dark-rimmed glasses that made her appear studious and harmless. The alien surveillance systems monitoring Tokyo's technology sector had cataloged thousands of potential targets. Research scientists, military contractors, government database administrators, and corporate executives who might organize resistance. Keiko Tanaka, freelance quantum systems analyst, rated no attention whatsoever. This was the result of 8 years of careful invisibility. Keiko saved her work and gathered her things. The cybercafe owner waved goodnight without looking up from his own computer. She was a regular customer, always polite, always quiet, always working alone. No one ever remembered her being there. Outside, Tokyo's neon-lit streets buzzed with late-night activity. Salary workers stumbled home from company drinking parties. Young people moved between clubs and karaoke bars. Street vendors sold ramen to anyone still hungry at 3 in the morning. Keiko walked through it all like a ghost. People stepped aside without realizing it, eyes sliding past her as if she were part of the background scenery. Years of training had taught her to exist in the spaces between attention, to move through crowds without being perceived. She took the train to her apartment in a quiet residential district. The building was old but well-maintained, home to families and elderly couples who valued privacy and peaceful living. Her unit was on the second floor, spartanly furnished with just the essentials: a bed, a small kitchen, a meditation area, and a workspace filled with equipment that would puzzle most technology experts. The alien surveillance network had briefly scanned her building during their initial reconnaissance. Their sensors detected nothing unusual: standard electronics, normal human thermal signatures, typical residential energy consumption. They classified the entire district as low strategic value and moved their attention elsewhere. They missed the quantum field generators hidden inside what appeared to be ordinary household appliances. They failed to notice the probability manipulation devices disguised as children's toys. Their sensors could not detect the existence of equipment that operated between dimensions of reality. Keiko made tea and sat in the center of her meditation area. She closed her eyes and began the breathing exercises her grandmother had taught her as a child. In through the nose for 4 counts. Hold for 7. Out through the mouth for 8. Simple techniques that prepared the mind for more complex work. Her grandmother had been many things: martial arts instructor, physicist, philosopher, and keeper of family secrets that stretched back 3 centuries. She had trained Keiko in arts that most people considered mythology or science fiction: the ability to move between states of existence, the skill of becoming more and less real as situation demanded. The best weapon, her grandmother had always said, is the one your enemy cannot understand. Keiko opened her eyes and looked at her reflection in the dark window. For just a moment, the reflection flickered, becoming transparent, then solid again. She was still learning to control the quantum states, but 8 years of practice had made her capable of things that violated most laws of physics. Her phone buzzed, a text message from her favorite restaurant. "Special menu available tonight. Your usual table is reserved." She smiled and began to change clothes. The message meant Shadow 9 was now active. Keiko opened a closet that appeared to contain ordinary women's clothing. Behind the false back panel, she found what she actually needed: black fabric that bent light around its edges, equipment that looked like jewelry but could disrupt electronic systems, weapons that resembled art supplies but could cut through almost any material. Her preparation ritual was precise and methodical. Each piece of equipment had its proper place, each movement its exact purpose. She had performed this sequence hundreds of times in training, but tonight felt different. Tonight was real. As she worked, Keiko thought about the aliens' ultimatum. 10,000 assassins represented an impressive force, but it also revealed important information about their thinking. They believed in overwhelming numbers. They trusted technological superiority. They expected their enemies to fight conventionally. None of these assumptions applied to Shadow 9. Her grandmother had taught her about the old ways, when a single ninja could change the course of history through patience, precision, and the willingness to do what others considered impossible. Modern technology had made those techniques more powerful, not less relevant. Quantum mechanics offered possibilities that ancient warriors could never have imagined. The ability to exist in multiple probability states simultaneously. The skill of moving through spaces that did not technically exist. The power to make events unhappen by changing their quantum foundations. Keiko finished dressing and gathered her equipment. Everything fit into a small backpack that looked like standard student gear. To casual observation, she remained an unremarkable young woman heading out for a late-night study session. She left her apartment and walked to the nearby park where she had played as a child. The area was empty at this hour, lit only by scattered streetlights and the distant glow of the city. Perfect for what she needed to do. Keiko sat on a bench and opened her laptop. To anyone watching, she appeared to be working on code or checking email. In reality, she was accessing quantum processing systems hidden throughout Tokyo's infrastructure, networks that existed in probability spaces between ordinary computer systems. Through these hidden channels, she reached out to her contacts around the world. Unlike Marcus Chen's network of human assets, Keiko's resources were primarily technological. Quantum computers that could predict probability cascades, surveillance systems that operated between dimensions, communication networks that existed in the spaces between normal reality. Her fingers moved across the keyboard with practiced precision. Commands flowed through quantum channels, activating dormant systems and awakening sleeping protocols. To outside observers, her laptop showed only routine system maintenance activities. Within minutes, Shadow 9 had access to information streams that should not have existed. Alien communication intercepts appeared on her screen, surveillance data from systems that were supposedly secure, real-time tracking information on the 1,000-fold Blade's deployment patterns. The aliens' confidence in their security was impressive, but they had made one crucial error. They assumed that Earth's technology operated within the same physical laws as their own. They had prepared defenses against conventional hacking, electronic warfare, and information gathering. They had not prepared for attacks that came from outside the normal dimensions of space-time. Keiko studied the incoming data with growing understanding. The alien assassins were indeed already on Earth, hidden at strategic locations around the globe. Their technology was advanced beyond human capabilities, their training perfect, their coordination flawless. But they were also completely dependent on systems that operated within predictable quantum states. They existed fully within normal reality, following conventional physical laws, thinking in ways that could be modeled and predicted. Keiko existed between realities. She could step outside normal physical laws when necessary. Her thinking patterns had been shaped by paradoxes and impossibilities that no alien computer could model. This was her advantage. She closed the laptop and stood up. Around her, the park remained quiet and empty. Above her, the alien surveillance systems continued their monitoring, detecting nothing unusual about a young woman finishing her late-night work session. They did not notice that their own surveillance data was being quietly edited. They missed the subtle changes being made to their communication protocols. They failed to detect the probability adjustments that were already beginning to affect their mission parameters. Keiko walked home through streets that seemed exactly the same as before, but were actually subtly different. The changes were small, barely detectable, but they would grow larger over time. Like ripples spreading across a quantum pond, minor alterations in probability would cascade into major disruptions. By the time the alien assassins realized what was happening, Shadow 9 would be ready for them. She paused at her apartment door and looked back at the sleeping city. Somewhere out there, 10,000 killers were preparing to destroy everything she cared about. They believed they understood their enemy. They trusted their superior numbers and advanced technology. Tomorrow, they would begin to learn how wrong they were. The first assassin struck at exactly 72 and after the ultimatum expired. General Patricia Hayes was reviewing defense plans in her Pentagon office when her security detail simply vanished. One moment, 2 armed guards stood outside her door. The next moment, they were gone, leaving behind only empty uniforms and the smell of ozone. The creature that materialized in her office defied easy description. It stood 7 feet tall, with crystalline skin that reflected light in impossible ways, and 4 arms that moved with liquid precision. Its species had perfected assassination techniques over millennia, and it had studied human physiology for months. General Hayes reached for her sidearm, but her hand never completed the motion. The alien's neural disruptor had already shut down her nervous system. She collapsed to the floor, alive but paralyzed. "General Patricia Hayes," the assassin said in perfect English, "your resistance ends here." It raised one crystalline arm, energy building around its fingertips. This death would be quick, clean, and impossible to prevent. The lights went out. Emergency power should have activated immediately, but instead the office remained dark. The alien's enhanced senses detected no change in electrical systems. The power was still flowing. The lights were simply choosing not to work. In the darkness, General Hayes heard something impossible, the sound of her own voice coming from 3 different directions simultaneously. "Who's there?" her voice called from the left side of the room. "Show yourself," her voice demanded from the right. "I'm not afraid of you," her voice declared from directly behind the alien assassin. The creature spun in confusion, neural sensors trying to lock onto targets that should not exist. Its training had prepared it for human weapons, human tactics, human psychology. It had not prepared for reality to stop making sense. The lights came back on. General Hayes was gone. In her place stood an ordinary-looking man in a business suit, drinking coffee from a disposable cup. "Hello," Marcus Chen said pleasantly. "I don't believe we've been introduced." 2,000 miles away in Los Angeles, another assassination was proceeding according to plan. Dr. Sarah Williams, director of NASA's Deep Space Research Program, was working alone in her laboratory when the building's security systems failed simultaneously. Cameras went offline. Motion detectors stopped responding. Locks released throughout the facility. The Virex infiltrator had been planning this approach for weeks. Its species specialized in technological warfare, capable of integrating with any electronic system and turning it against its users. Within minutes, it had complete control over every device in the building. Dr. Williams never saw her attacker. The security feeds showed her working at her computer one moment, then slumping forward the next as neural implants shut down her brain functions. The perfect assassination. Except that according to 3 other security systems, Dr. Williams was simultaneously working in her car in the parking garage, eating dinner at a restaurant 5 miles away, and conducting a live television interview from a studio downtown. The Virex's technological senses reeled from impossible data streams. Its quantum processors, designed to interface with any electronic system, began receiving feedback that violated basic laws of physics. Surveillance cameras showed the same person in multiple locations. Computer records indicated events that happened and did not happen simultaneously. In the laboratory, Dr. Williams stood up. Her neural implants should have been offline. Her brain functions should have ceased. Instead, she turned around and smiled at the invisible attacker. "Are you having trouble with your systems?" she asked. "I know someone who might be able to help with that." The voice came from behind the Virex, where a young Japanese woman sat casually on a workbench that had been empty moments before. She appeared to be playing with what looked like a child's toy, but quantum distortions rippled through the air around her hands. "You might want to run a diagnostic," Keiko suggested helpfully. "I think your reality matrix needs updating." In Moscow, an 8-armed Thaxian death dancer cornered Finance Minister Volkov in his private office, only to discover that the man it was strangling was actually a highly detailed hologram. The real minister was simultaneously being murdered in Beijing, according to Chinese media reports, that were somehow broadcasting live footage of events that could not be happening. In London, a Zephyrian phase killer stepped through solid walls to reach Parliament's emergency session, but found itself trapped in a building that was larger inside than outside. Every door led to the same room. Every window showed a different city. The laws of three-dimensional space had apparently been suspended. In Delhi, a Mortani bioweapon specialist released a plague designed to kill only humans, but the pathogen immediately began attacking its creator instead. The genetic targeting systems had somehow been reprogrammed to identify the alien as the target species. Across the globe, the thousand-fold blade's perfect assassination plan was becoming a nightmare of impossible failures. In their command center hidden beneath the Pacific Ocean, the alien commanders watched their status displays with growing alarm. Mission reports contradicted each other. Successful kills were reported by agents who were simultaneously reporting mission failures. Targets who had been confirmed dead appeared on live television giving interviews about the ongoing alien crisis. "How are humans doing this?" demanded Commander Zexhai, leader of the thousand-fold blade. His four-armed Thaxian physiology allowed him to operate multiple control systems simultaneously, but none of them were providing coherent information. "Our analysis systems cannot process these data streams," reported technical specialist Morden. "The humans appear to be violating basic causality. Effects are preceding causes. The same events are happening and not happening simultaneously." "That is impossible," Zexhai replied. "Reality does not work that way." "Agreed, Commander. Reality does not work that way. Yet somehow the humans are making it work that way." On the main display, new reports appeared faster than they could be processed. Assassination teams reported mission success, then reported the same targets were still alive, then reported they had never received those missions in the first place. Surveillance systems showed human leaders in multiple locations simultaneously. Communication intercepts contained conversations that referenced events that had not yet happened. "Sir," communication specialist Valera spoke up nervously, "we're receiving strange reports from our field teams. They're requesting clarification on targets who appear to be editing themselves out of existence." Commander Zexhai felt a chill that had nothing to do with the underwater facility's temperature. "Explain." Agent Korth reported successful termination of the British Prime Minister. But according to Agent Korth, he never made that report. According to Agent Korth, the Prime Minister was never targeted. According to Agent Korth does not exist. "All three simultaneously?" "Yes, sir. Quantum scanners confirm that all three states are equally true." In Washington, Marcus Chen sat in a small cafe, the same one where he had received his activation orders. Around him, patrons chatted quietly over coffee and pastries. Nobody paid attention to the unremarkable man typing on his laptop. His screen showed a web of connections spanning the globe. Each point of light represented an alien assassin team. Each connection showed their communication patterns, their psychological profiles, their operational weaknesses. Marcus was not fighting the aliens with superior firepower or advanced technology. He was fighting them with something much simpler and much more devastating: human psychology applied to non-human minds. The Thaxians valued honor above efficiency. Marcus fed them intelligence suggesting their mission partners were receiving better assignments, more prestigious targets. Within hours, Thaxian assassination teams were competing against each other instead of working together. The Vrex trusted their technology absolutely. Marcus introduced subtle errors into their data streams, making their own equipment report contradictory information. Vrex agents began doubting their systems, hesitating at crucial moments, second-guessing their technological advantages. The Zephyrians prided themselves on perfect coordination. Marcus planted evidence suggesting that some teams had gone rogue, were operating beyond command authority. Zephyrian units began monitoring each other for signs of betrayal instead of focusing on their missions. Each alien species had different psychological vulnerabilities, but they all shared one crucial weakness. They expected their enemies to make sense. They expected human behavior to follow logical patterns that could be predicted and countered. Marcus Chen specialized in making enemies defeat themselves through their own assumptions. He had turned the thousandfold blade's greatest strength, their diversity and coordination, into their greatest weakness. In Tokyo, Keiko Tanaka sat in her meditation position, but her consciousness existed in 17 different probability states simultaneously. Through quantum manipulation, she had spread her awareness across multiple timeline branches, allowing her to observe and influence events that existed in the spaces between reality. From her perspective, the alien assassination attempts were visible as probability cascades. Each planned killing created quantum ripples that she could detect, trace, and alter. By introducing small changes into the probability mathematics, she could make successful missions become failures, make living targets become dead ones who were still alive, make past events retroactively not happen. The aliens' quantum sensors could detect her interference, but they could not understand what they were detecting. Their technology operated within normal space-time. Their computers processed information that followed conventional causality. Keiko existed outside those limitations. She had learned to think in paradoxes, to make decisions that were simultaneously true and false, to take actions that produced effects before their causes occurred. To the aliens, she was not an enemy they could fight. She was a violation of the basic laws that governed their reality. As night fell across Earth's time zones, the thousandfold blade's perfect plan continued its collapse into chaos. Assassination teams reported contradictory mission statuses. Command centers received intelligence that made no logical sense. Highly trained killers found themselves trapped in situations that violated basic physics. Marcus Chen finished his coffee and closed his laptop. Phase 1 was complete. The aliens were no longer hunting humans. They were hunting ghosts, shadows, and impossibilities. Now the real war could begin. Commander Zexhai had stopped trusting his own sensors 12 hours ago. The command center beneath the Pacific Ocean buzzed with reports that contradicted each other, violated basic logic, and suggested that reality itself had declared war on the thousandfold blade. "Sir, we have confirmation that all human leadership targets have been eliminated," reported technical specialist Mordun. "Excellent," Zexhai replied, feeling the first relief he had experienced in days. "However," Mordun continued nervously, "we also have confirmation that all human leadership targets are still alive and actively coordinating global resistance." "Both simultaneously?" "Yes, sir. According to our quantum analyzers, both states exist with equal probability. The humans appear to be dead and alive at the same time." Commander Zexhai rubbed his temples with two of his 4 hands. "What about our field teams? How many agents are still operational?" Communications specialist Velira checked her displays. "That depends on how you define operational, sir. We have 10,000 agents reporting mission success. We also have 0 agents reporting anything because they all apparently never existed. And we have approximately 5,000 agents requesting immediate extraction because they're being hunted by their own teammates." "Their own teammates?" "Yes, sir. Multiple species are reporting that other thousandfold blade members have gone rogue and are targeting them instead of humans." In London, 3 Zephyrian assassins cornered their former Thaxian partner in an abandoned warehouse. The Thaxian had supposedly been feeding information to human resistance groups, according to intercepts that all 4 aliens now believed were real. "Traitor!" one Zephyrian hissed, its phase-shifting ability allowing it to move between dimensions. "We trusted you." "What treachery?" the Thaxian replied, all 4 arms raised defensively. "I have been loyal to our mission." "Then explain these communication logs showing you working with human agents." The Thaxian examined the evidence on the Zephyrian scanner. The data looked authentic, but something felt wrong. "These conversations, I remember them differently." "Memory modification," another Zephyrian accused. "Classic human psychological warfare." The fight that followed was brief, but destructive. When it ended, 4 of the galaxy's most elite assassins lay dead in the London warehouse, killed by each other while their actual human targets continued their daily routines, completely unaware of the supernatural war raging around them. Similar scenes played out across the globe. Vrex technology specialists were shutting down each other's systems, convinced their partners had been compromised by human hackers. Mortani bio-warriors were releasing counter-agents to neutralize plagues their teammates had supposedly deployed incorrectly. Each species was convinced that the others had been corrupted, turned against their mission by impossibly cunning human manipulation. In his small apartment in Neo, Singapore, Marcus Chen monitored the chaos through his network of quantum communication channels. His laptop showed a global map where the thousand-fold blade was systematically destroying itself. Red indicators marked alien-on-alien conflicts. Blue indicators showed successful human casualties that had somehow resulted in 0 actual human deaths. His psychological warfare campaign had worked beyond his most optimistic projections. The key insight had been simple. The aliens expected him to target their minds. They had prepared for human psychological attacks, brainwashing attempts, and propaganda campaigns. They had not prepared for him to target their information systems instead. Marcus had not tried to change how the aliens thought. He had simply changed what they thought about. By feeding each species carefully crafted intelligence about their partner's activities, he had turned their own paranoia and tactical awareness against them. The Thaxians' honor-based culture made them suspicious of partners who might be receiving better assignments. The Vrex's technology addiction made them paranoid about system security. The Zephyrians' coordination protocols made them hyper-alert to signs of betrayal. The Mortani's bioweapon expertise made them fear accidental contamination from careless teammates. Marcus had simply provided evidence to confirm what each species was already predisposed to suspect about the others. His phone rang. The display showed a number he did not recognize. "Hello, Marcus." He knew the voice immediately, even though they had never spoken before. "Keiko, we need to coordinate the final phase. Are you ready?" "Ready. What's the plan?" "The aliens still believe they've won. They think the assassination mission was successful because their reports confirm it. They just don't understand why their agents are fighting each other." Marcus nodded, even though she could not see him. "So we give them a victory they can understand, then take it away from them?" "Exactly. Make them think they've succeeded completely, then show them it was all an illusion. Psychological warfare meets quantum manipulation. The perfect combination of logical and illogical solutions." Keiko ended the call and returned to her meditation position. Around her, the apartment flickered between dimensions as she prepared for the most complex quantum manipulation she had ever attempted. What she was about to do would either end the alien threat permanently or collapse local space-time into a probability cascade that might unmake the entire solar system. She decided not to think too hard about the second possibility. 2 hours later, every alien communication system in the thousand-fold blade network received the same message simultaneously. It appeared to come from Commander Zexhai himself, transmitted through quantum channels that should have been impossible to compromise. All teams report immediate mission success. Human leadership structure completely eliminated. Resistance capabilities neutralized. Earth surrender protocols activated. Return to designated extraction points for mission completion celebration. Within minutes, the aliens' own sensors confirmed the message. Global communications networks showed human governments collapsing. World leaders appeared on emergency broadcasts announcing complete surrender to alien demands. Military forces stood down. Resistance organizations disbanded. For the first time in 3 days, Commander Zexhai allowed himself to feel satisfied. The mission had succeeded despite the tactical complications. Humanity had proven more resourceful than expected, but superior alien coordination had ultimately prevailed. The extraction proceeded smoothly. Assassination teams reported to designated coordinates around the globe. Transport ships decloaked and began collecting the 1,000-fold Blade members for return to their home worlds. Within 6 hours, 9,997 alien assassins had been successfully extracted from Earth. 3 aliens remained behind to monitor the surrender proceedings and ensure human compliance with Galactic Confederation demands. That was when the illusion ended. Every broadcast showing human surrender revealed itself to be carefully constructed fiction. World leaders who had appeared to capitulate were discovered to be digital recreations with no basis in reality. Military forces that had supposedly stood down were actually continuing normal operations, completely unaware that any surrender had been announced. The 3 monitoring aliens found themselves alone on a planet where the 10,000 members of their elite assassination force had never existed. Their mission reports were revealed to be elaborate fabrications. Their extraction coordinates had delivered them not to transport ships, but to empty space where no vessels waited. 9,997 of the galaxy's finest killers had been erased from reality itself. Not killed, not captured, but retroactively prevented from ever having been deployed to Earth in the first place. The monitoring aliens' emergency transmission to the Galactic Confederation was brief and hysteria. Mission total failure, 1,000-fold Blade lost, human capability assessment completely incorrect, request immediate retreat from Sol system, humanity is not what we believed. In the command bunkers beneath Geneva, President Martinez and his advisors watched the alien transmission with amazement. "Sir," General Hayes said slowly, "our sensors show all alien presences leaving Earth orbit. They appear to be withdrawing entirely." "Just like that?" "Yes, sir." "Whatever protocol Midnight accomplished, it seems to have convinced them that attacking Earth was a very bad idea." President Martinez opened a secure communication channel. "Director Chen, are you there?" "I'm here, Mr. President. I don't suppose you can tell me exactly what just happened?" 2 people did what 10,000 aliens thought was impossible, sir. They proved that reality is negotiable when you refuse to accept the other side's definition of what's real. "And our assets? Reaper 7 and Shadow 9? "Both returning to normal duties, sir. I believe Reaper 7 has a security consultation appointment tomorrow morning, and Shadow 9 needs to finish debugging some quantum processing code." 3 days later, Marcus Chen sat in his favorite cafe, reviewing quarterly security reports for his corporate clients. The morning news played on a small television in the corner, but the alien crisis was already becoming old news. Humanity's attention span had moved on to more immediate concerns: upcoming elections, sports championships, and celebrity gossip. Nobody in the cafe paid any attention to the unremarkable middle-aged man drinking coffee and typing on his laptop. They had no idea they were looking at someone who had just saved their entire species from extinction. Marcus preferred it that way. Across the city, Keiko Tanaka worked late in her corner of the cyber cafe, debugging code that would improve quantum processing efficiency by 12%. The achievement would probably earn her a small bonus from the client company and a brief mention in a technical journal that 36 people might actually read. She found that much more satisfying than fame or recognition. Her phone buzzed with a message from her grandmother. "Heard interesting news reports. Hope your weekend project went well." Keiko smiled and typed back, "Project completed successfully. Thanks for the advice about weapons the enemy cannot understand. Wisdom of ancestors proves useful again. Come for dinner Sunday. We can discuss your next impossible assignment." 10,000 light-years away, the Galactic Confederation's emergency session had been running for 6 standard days. Representatives from 12 species argued about how to classify the threat posed by humanity. "They destroyed our most elite military unit," declared the Thaxian representative. 10,000 trained killers. Eliminated without conventional warfare. Our analysis indicates they did not destroy the unit, corrected the Vrex delegate. They appear to have convinced the unit to destroy itself through methods we cannot comprehend. Even worse, added the Zephyrian speaker. They demonstrated capabilities that violate basic physical laws. How do we defend against enemies who can edit reality? The debate continued for days, but the conclusion was inevitable. A new classification was added to the Confederation's threat assessment database. Human factor, evaluation impossible. Earth was officially designated as a planet to be avoided at all costs. The Galactic Confederation's first contact with humanity would also be their last. They had learned the most important lesson about dealing with humans. Sometimes the only winning move is not to play. On Earth, life continued exactly as it always had. People went to work, children went to school, and the universe remained blissfully unaware that two ordinary humans had just redefined the balance of galactic power through the simple expedient of refusing to lose a war they were supposed to lose. Marcus Chen finished his coffee and headed home to call his daughter. Keiko Tanaka completed her debugging session and went home to have dinner with her grandmother. And somewhere in the depths of space, 10,000 alien assassins continued to not exist, victims of the most effective weapon in human history, the absolute refusal to accept that something cannot be done.